She's sugary, she's spice. She is everything plus nice. Take her one-on-one class and she provides the best advice. She'll take you down to the trenches, but only to lead a new way. Only for the sake of you and your legacy to establish a new day. Let's give a warm welcome to the Chief Reprimand and the Supreme Hugger, G. Smith. G. Smith.
Welcome, everyone. Welcome to the Inner Chi Show. I am your lovely host, Chi Smith. Listen, I've missed y'all. I know I say it almost every week, but I really do miss y'all. It's amazing what doggone 7 days can do, okay? 7 days. Listen, we have a treat for you guys. We have a treat. Now, listen. Y'all know, grab your pen, your papers, your pads, your pencils, your markers, your dry erase boards, okay? Because here at the Inner Chi Show, we love to learn. And we love to understand what we're learning. Why? Because it's not just for us, but it's for us so that we can give it to others and so that others can give it to others. It's a whole snowball effect. It's a whole domino effect. Let us not be selfish what we learn here at the Inner Chi Show. Okay, let us not be selfish in what we learn. Now, tonight's show, you might literally want to share this link. You want to share this show because it's really going to be informational. And guess what? Not only that, but it is something that many of us may know all too well. Many of us may have experienced it personally, and or we know someone who has. If many of you don't know, October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month. And so tonight we have a special guest who knows this topic all too well, very personal. However, the great thing about this special guest is they're doing something about it. And so what I really want you to do is really share this show tonight. Tell a friend. Share with a family member. Share it with someone who you know may have experienced domestic violence. We're going to go ahead and uncover the myths right now because domestic violence is not just towards women. It is towards men and even children. Okay? So let's debunk that myth right now. Domestic violence is a very, very, very serious topic. It happens every day. Quite frankly, let me share some stats with you really quickly. So every 9 seconds, a woman in just this country experiences some means of assault by a current and or ex-significant other. That's just women. 1 in 4 men are victims of some form of physical violence by an intimate partner. And then 10 million children and adolescents witness violence between either their parents or their caregivers every year. So guys, at this time, what we want to do is we want to introduce Tawana Duhart. She is a very dear friend of mine. I've grown to really love and respect. And throughout our friendship journey, there was some information shared that her family had experienced. And what better way than to close out the month, the last Tuesday, if you will, month in October, discussing domestic violence and what she and her family are doing about it. So at this time, guys, help me welcome Tawana Duhart. Hello, dear. Hello.
Hi, Chi.
How are you doing today?
I am blessed.
Awesome. Who we got here? Hey, Miss Glenda, how you doing? Awesome. Yeah. Hi, Brother Timothy. How are you? Blessings to you. Listen, thank you for being available today. And what we want to do is slow walk this conversation because, again, many of us know this topic way too well. whether it was something personal and or very close to us within our own family, and or we know friends and our associates who may have experiences. So what I want to do first is ask you, who are you? Who is to want to do hard? Let the world know who you are.
I am first a mother of two. My oldest is in college, my other two boys, and my youngest is in high school. I'm that auntie. Family is big for me, but most defining me would be the strength of a woman with faith. Because definitely the last 11 years, my faith has been what has pushed me the most. I get asked often, T, why are you so strong? And my answer to that is that a lot of the traumas that I've experienced, strong was the only option. So definitely a woman of strength. That would sum up to one.
Wow. Woman of strength. I love that. And again, we're gonna slow walk this thing because we have to uncover things that often aren't spoken of, talked about. And so you say strength of a woman. I have to ask you, from your personal perspective, do you feel that women, do we bear too much? Sometimes that strength, is it something that you think is already in our DNA, or is it something that we inherit?
Ooh, I would say both. I think with the right situation, a woman will tap into some strength she didn't know she had. I can definitely say that from personal experience. But also, for me, I've watched women in my family demonstrate levels of strength that was amazing to me until it became personal for me. I was able to tap into that also. So I think it's within every woman. I just think it's the ability and what they have been exposed to.
So with that, um, do you think the things that women carry, is it optional? Or do you think a lot of things that we carry is because we have to without an option?
I definitely would say it's not an option. If I didn't have any children, I would still be that type of figure to the children around me. Because just as the mother figure I am to my own, I am that to the children around me and to my nieces and nephews also. So I really think it's something just within us.
So then let me ask you this. um, do you think every woman can handle maybe the strength that you've carried throughout your life?
I would say no. I think definitely some childhood experiences I couldn't understand going through it as a child, and why me was definitely something that I used to say. But to understand how my life would change overnight at the age of 29, it made perfect sense. If I had not experienced what I had experienced at an early age, I don't think I would have been able to brace what changes were upon me and the challenges that I would be facing head forth.
Wow. Okay. So that absolutely segues into, what happened at 29, if you don't mind sharing with the world. Again, we are here to talk about domestic violence. Um, Number one, what does domestic violence mean to you? And then, if you don't mind sharing with us a little about your experience at 29.
Okay. Domestic violence means to me, I think it definitely is the lack of self-control or the understanding of how to process high emotions.
Oh, wow.
And I say that because June 7th, 2010, Approximately 1:30 in the morning, my older brother called me. Our sister had been brutally attacked and murdered by her boyfriend in our childhood family home. At that time, they had just located her 7-month-old son. So immediately I no longer have a sister, and I have a 7-month-old nephew that doesn't have a mother.
Wow. So, and let me ask you, as we understand it, this immediately changed the dynamic of your family. But let me back up and inquire and ask, because of this heinous act, did your sister ever provide any type of foresight as to being in a domestic abuse relationship? You know, was there ever any signs of domestic abuse that your family may have been aware of before leading up to the murder of your sister?
To understand and to know my sister, if there were any signs, she wouldn't speak on it. I will say that her uneasy spirit, maybe leading the week up until her murder, I knew something was off within her. And I was literally coming to town that following weekend. I was coming from Texas to visit home to Little Rock. Um, I think that possibly he could have been agitated to a level that she wasn't used to, but not knowing the signs, I don't think it would have alerted her to that degree to feel like her or my nephew life was in jeopardy, or my mother, because my mother was in the home also during this heinous act.
Wow. Okay. And I ask that because it's not a trick question as it relates to domestic violence. As we know, many people who are in that relationship, to your point, have no idea that this could be coming, right? People have their relationships, whatever it consists of. Right? Sometimes you know triggers, sometimes you don't know triggers. And or sometimes you just experience up and downs in a relationship and you never think this could happen to this degree. But then there's the other side of the spectrum, right? To where, you know, there are some signs in a relationship from time to time, and sometimes it's overlooked and or it's not spoken of. And so that's why I asked you that question. Um, do you think a lot of men and or women do know that something bad could happen, not a murder, of course, but the abuse, you know?
I think dealing definitely with the family dynamics, and I will use my family for an example of the females. Um, Everyone within this particular one side of my family had experienced it, not me per se, but I've seen it and was exposed to it. But you don't know that one final blow, or some man that is dealing with, or significant other, doesn't have to even be a man. One female dealing with emotions that they're not able to handle can lead to something as traumatic that it did occur. But I think that if the family dynamic does not address that it is not okay, and if it continues to be swept under the rug, there will be more Brishas, there will be more Kellys, there will be more Tamikas. And in the past year, I've buried two classmates to the same heinous crime of being murdered by a significant other, and they left children behind.
Sure. So in our community, because one of the wonderful networks that we're broadcasting on is BBC TV, Black Billionaires Club TV. And so let's be clear, majority of our audience is of African Americans and or Black Americans or Africans in America, whatever people want to say. I want to talk to our community. Do you think, you mentioned sweeping under the rug, and you also mentioned being exposed to it at a young age. Do you think that in the Black family, that abuse, whether it's, verbal, physical, mental, not only is it common, but we have become desensitized to accepting it growing up. So when we get into a relationship, we accept that abuse too. Do you think that, or do you think anything opposite of that? What are your thoughts there?
I definitely think that it has, to the point that we had to shut down all news outlets, their comment sections regarding the story when it made news regarding my sister, because the common question came across all of these different news outlets was, well, what did she do? So to say, not that it's personal to me, but to say that that's the community that we live in, not that this mother of a 7-month-old was stabbed 62 times, life has been taken, but more so, what did she do to constitute the receiving that kind of treatment? As in, that act was a domino effect. No, but I don't think we discussed in the family dynamics the ability of walking away, or even teaching our young men or our young women, when we're high on emotion, how to handle that emotion. And it's not to move to violence, but it's to talk about it, and definitely for my family, we're blessed to receive a copy of the case file. So I've been able to dig deeper in it and to just review where the mindset of Mr. Billups was when he did this heinous act, and to understand his background. And the family dynamic was just of the same. There was no relationship with his mother. There was no father present. So all of those things, I think, play a dynamic in how people respond to things as they continue to happen throughout their lives. Some people may respond in Mr. Billups' situation. He responded to everything that was going on around him and to taking my sister's life. And definitely it was not a direct because of something she done or their interaction. It was just a point in his life that he felt he had nothing else. It is, if I can't have her, nobody else will. But how do we heal our families to move away from that mindset, that it's okay if the relationship doesn't work? You can walk away and still be okay. You are still loved. You're still valued.
Right. I love that. And thank you so much for that. Guys, if you just tuned in, welcome to the Inner Chi Show. I am your host, Chi Smith. We have the wonderful Tawana Duhart, who's here, who is the board of directors, or board director, excuse me, of Brisha Inc. We are speaking about domestic violence on tonight. October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month. And we are here with Ms. Duhart as it relates to her own personal experience with domestic violence, of losing a sister very dear to the family. From what I understand, very high spirited. Everyone loved her. She was very much so thought of in the community. People loved her. Her coworkers loved her. Her church members loved her. She definitely left an impression. And because of that, we definitely want to highlight the wonderful nonprofit that you have. But before we get more deep into that, I want to ask you, well, we understand the passion behind creating such an organization, because to your point of, we don't talk about it enough, perhaps in the family dynamic. We need to understand what abuse is altogether. and the different facets of abuse and what's okay and what's not okay. I mean, quite frankly, you know, you're a mother, I'm a mother. At some point, we've experienced bullying to our children, right? And when you go to the school and have a conversation with the faculty and staff and administration, you know, you find out the different dynamics of that child's family and or that child's background. And, you know, perhaps they come from, you know, a home front where abuse is accepted, and or they've just been exposed and it hasn't been, you know, they didn't go to therapy for it. You know, they didn't close that door, they just kind of left it hanging, or like you said, swept it under the rug. Look, we have parents, you know, that was born in the 50s and the 60s. And what they tell you, what goes on at home stays at home. Don't you go to that schoolhouse and run your mouth, right? So let's be clear. But we live in a different time now to where we have children who ask a lot of questions, you know, and so if nothing else, bring the knowledge to them so that when they see it, they smell it, you know, or even if it triggers them, they can identify it. But you know, to your point, and you uncovering Mr. Billups' background, clearly there wasn't anyone there to, you know, nurture him and or bring awareness to him and his emotions, his feelings. I mean, we don't, you know, for me personally, I don't know who was any mentors, if you will, right? Or anyone who impressed upon his life to help, you know, ensure that life moving forward was going to be successful. Um, and you know, and we're not necessarily here to talk about his past, but again, we are talking about Black families, and you just uncovered, you know, a couple other names due to um, domestic violence in a relationship. So, you know, it's oftentimes in our house, we're living with it, we're sleeping with it, you know, we're entertaining it. I mean, it has become a part of our family ecosystem that says this is, I accept this, you know, it's common, and it's not. So those of you who are listening, talk to your children early. Let them know the different categories, the different facets of abuse. You know, help them understand what it looks like. Pull up videos, and or you guys have, you know, the Brisha Incorporation email. Send your questions. That's why we have this information here. We have a wonderful Tawana and her family has a Facebook page called the Celebration of Brisha Walters, where, you know, donate to the organization so that they can help more families that are experiencing this. You know, here's the deal. I mean, it happened so suddenly. And again, we spoke about earlier, Tawana, how it just happened like that to your family. Brisha left behind, you know, a beautiful baby boy. Help us understand, you know, how families should be able to move forward from such act. How did you guys be able to move forward, if you will?
Definitely anger. Um, I'm not going to say grieving in itself, you deal with anger, but definitely a different level of anger because we had court proceedings. You know, I took the stand, and it's kind of ironic that we are ending the month of domestic violence, but Mr. Billups will his sentencing date is the anniversary of November 9th, 2012. For anyone wondering, you can Google the story. He had literally 4 hours of freedom before he was arrested. I took the stand on the behalf of my family, but I think it's the part that a lot of people don't understand because it's just a murder. But since my sister's son was so young, even though we've done the work to heal, to trust and believe in that our Father will handle what we can't handle, it was still a process. And even though we healed from that process, My sister's son just had his 12th birthday this past Saturday. And now he's of the age. He's going to have those questions. So it's never over because I have to, as the auntie, as his family member, to the link to his mother, tell the story like it's never been told, to explain to him what type of mother he had, what he missed, what she would have done if she was here. You know, my sister didn't have none of the 12 birthdays with him. You know, he was just 7 months old. And one thing I would definitely say to any family that is dealing with domestic violence and there's children involved, definitely getting them active and making sure that we're addressing those emotions. You're watching the mood swings, you're watching the characteristics that is building with them, because you never know how they're internally dealing with that. And that's the goal of my family. It's all about Jada. You know, the sweet person my sister was, she was a mother to us. Our mother had been ill our entire life. My big sister was my mom. So definitely us covering Jaden and making sure. But when I had the conversation with Jaden on his birthday, he is the spitting image of his mother. He is of love, and we just continue to nurture that and to grow that within. But definitely dealing with our teenagers, our males and females. This day and age and society we live in, it's just on high on emotion. But we have to get in front of our teenagers and make sure that they know how to deal with those emotions. Because in the blink of an eye, one emotion can lead to changing for several families. Not only did my family change, Mr. Billups' family changed also, because he'll never see them again.
Wow. Amazing. Wow. Yeah. So let me ask you, you know, with again, guys, if you just tuned in, we're talking about domestic violence. October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month. You know, share this again with your friends, your family. Share it with someone who have shared some secrets with you, and you're holding those secrets, and you may know that someone that may be experiencing this. Domestic violence is no joke. You know, there are signs. So, um, listen, Tawana has a great organization, and she is more than happy to, you know, help answer any questions as it relates to domestic violence. You may not want to identify yourself in the comment section today, and that's okay. But the great thing is, this particular broadcast is streaming live on 2 different platforms, and the great thing is too, you can always go back to the replay. So, you know, again, share tonight. If there are any immediate questions as it relates to what are the warning signs, can it be avoided? You know, drop it today. We want to be able to answer you live and right now, because again, as we heard those stats earlier, every 9 seconds a woman is experiencing some type of domestic abuse from a current or ex-girlfriend. Every 9 seconds. We've been on air for 30 minutes. We've been on air for 30 minutes. So in 30 minutes, and if every 9 seconds, guys, this is for real. This is serious. And listen, we debunk the myth. It's not just violence towards women. It happens to men too. It happens to men. It happens to children. But we have to talk about it, because I want to be clear. In our community, it is very much so prevalent. And it is the very thing that we don't talk about, which leads to triggers later on in life. And you're trying to figure out the aggression and the emotion behind it, and the anger or the frustration, because maybe who you are around, maybe whom you're dating, maybe they remind you of someone who, you know, mistreated you. But again, all abuse is not necessarily physical. There's different facets of abuse. But in this case, we do want to highlight physical domestic abuse, period. Ms. Duhart was able to share with us a story regarding her personal experience regarding losing her sister behind domestic violence. And what I want to ask you is, what would you say are the warning signs of domestic abuse?
One
In
of the
your
signs that I
opinion?
actually noticed from my sister was they prevent you from making independent decisions, jealousy of friends and the time that you're spending away from them, keeping you away from your friends and families. And another key sign that I've seen in dealing with so many women and people reaching out to me is it always starts with them destroying property first, or the threat behind, if you leave me, this will happen. Not even saying that I'll hurt you, but I'll hurt someone that is dear to you. Those are signs that you want to watch, because definitely if someone starts dating someone new, male or female, and they start to get off of their routine, they don't come around as much, who they're dating doesn't want to be around anyone. Those are some telltale signs that it should be watched. There's some warning labels
Okay. Wow. Yeah. Do you think domestic abuse can be avoided? You think it could
there.
be
I
avoided?
absolutely do. I really truly believe that domestic violence and abuse can be avoided if families see more of healthy relationships, nonviolent responses. If families understood that because you're bothered or because you're agitated doesn't mean that that should lead to violence or mental verbal abuse. There is other ways to heal from it and to deal with it. But one of the things that we must do amongst our own communities is display healthy relationships. That has to be the forefront. And identifying those relationships that are not healthy and figuring out how to get it healthy, because that's the root.
Wow. That's right. That's right. We have to see more healthy relationships in order to know what's unhealthy. And you're spot on with that, because oftentimes uh, dysfunctionality has become a lot of people's norm,
Right?
unfortunately. And there's no one in their support system to tell them that that's dysfunctional, that that's unhealthy. So while we're speaking about healthy, um, let's talk about Brish Inc. Let's talk about what that organization is, because you are absolutely creating an atmosphere for men, women, children to change their perspective on domestic violence. You are creating something to lead into learning about healthy relationships. So, talk to us about Brisha Inc., if you will.
Yes. Brisha Inc. is my 501c3 nonprofit domestic violence organization. And it was to give a voice to my sister beyond her passing, and to give the voice to classmates that I've lost, to all the women or men that have lost their lives to domestic violence. But when I launched Bristol Inc. August 4th, 2020, during the pandemic, the conviction has been on me strong for years. But one thing happened during the pandemic that a lot of news outlets talked about. Domestic violence went up. It went up on an uproar where people stuck in the house. People are disagreeing. But one of the things that continuously my inbox, my DMs, because I've been transparent about the case up until he was sentenced. I provided updates on my nephew, because so many people within my community wanted to be a part and really had an attachment to Bush. And one of those things that always came back to me is to want to please focus on relocation, because a lot of people don't leave because if they have children, the expense around relocating. Most organizations don't focus in on that part. And a lot of people, if they leave for a night or two to stay at someone else's house, they return because they have nowhere else to go. So I had a dear classmate reach out to me and say, Tawana, I'm gone because of you. But it took me 3 times going back. So Brisha Inc. will definitely refocus on the relocation part of it and being the crisis intervention to the local communities in the Dallas Fort Worth area and my hometown of the Little Rock area, Little Rock, Arkansas. And also providing a virtual platform because we're uncertain of the pandemic of where we're going to move, but to still be that source and definitely offering this to our teenagers because I think if we get ahead of it, then it would chime down on how much it affects adults. If we learn how to deal with the emotions, if we learn what is healthy when we're younger, then it's different when we're exposed to it when we're older. So that is the major part of Brisha, is to continue to give my sister a voice. And every time that I think about not speaking, I just hear my sister say, was my living in vain? And it will never be. I am my sister's keeper. And that's why Brisha Inc. was founded.
Guys, wow. If you just tuned in, you are missing a treat. You can catch it on replay. Okay. Guys, we're talking to Tawana Duhart, who is a wonderful soul, and she is her sister's keeper. And since I've been knowing Miss Duhart, and when I found out about her experience, I would have never guessed it because in the beginning of the show, she talked about the strength of a woman. And I have to believe that whatever Miss Duhart may have experienced in early life, it prepared her on how to move forward in strength regarding her sister's murder. And I can tell you that from being friends with Miss Duhart, she is the cornerstone for her family. She is her sister's keeper. I feel like I know Miss Brisha. I feel like I know Jaden. We have to talk about domestic violence, family. We have to educate ourselves on what it is, what are the signs. We have to be able to manage our emotions in such a way that it does not end someone's life. We have to know that it is okay to leave. We have to know that, and we have to communicate that in our family. So I want to ask you, Tawana, that people can indeed reach out to you to donate to the celebration of Brisha Waters. Can they do that right now? Can they
Yes,
go
they can.
to the Facebook page and be able to? Okay, okay. And they can also contact you by email through brishaincorporation@gmail.com for any questions. Guys, the headquarters are they're in Dallas or they in Little Rock?
Both.
Awesome. Okay. So guys, you are more than welcome. If you are in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex, shoot, if you are even in the state of Texas, if you're in the state of Arkansas, please make sure that you are reaching out to Miss Duhart. Let me tell you, she is doing the legwork like no other as it relates to Brisha Inc. Let me tell you, if you are looking to partner with an organization such as Brisha Inc. to bring more awareness to maybe your audience, because Tawana She has a wealth of knowledge. And again, this is her own personal testimony, how her family was able to move forward in such capacity and still be able to be strong for Mr. Jaden, who has never met his mother due to domestic violence. And so, what I want you to end with is how important, you mentioned it earlier, but there are a lot of children who don't have their parents available because of domestic violence. A lot of children may have been removed from a home because of domestic violence. How can families really come together and be that support system for children as you and your siblings and the rest of your family have for your nephew?
Definitely, it's the uncomfortable part. Some people feel when they get to a part of healing that if they don't talk about it, it goes away. But when there's children involved, it never goes away. So one of the things that we have done is got comfortable having that conversation. And I'll tell anybody my sister's story. And me getting comfortable telling everybody has made me comfortable now where my nephew is of the age to ask all type of questions, to feel comfortable in sharing that information with him. And just making sure that line of communication is clear, is comfortable, and it's a needed space and it's provided. Because they're gonna have questions. As they continue to grow, they're gonna want to know, is this something that my mom done? Is this something my dad done? Those are the questions that you have to be prepared for these children to ask. And somebody has to answer it. Don't leave it unanswered. Providing that space for them is definitely can change the outcome. Because even though my nephew won't understand now, but when he's older, he will. My nephew was left between the mattress and the box spring. The situation was set up for him not to survive, but he's here. He's here. And there's a story to be told. And we will face that as he continues to face life and adversities. But it's definitely to have that communication and making sure that they feel comfortable to come to you and discuss anything, and make sure that you're paying attention. Because, when I was young, we didn't have the internet like this. But he has the internet, he can type in his mom's name. So with that information, you have to be ahead of that. Before he Google or before they Google, have that conversation. Even it's just to have a simple conversation, not in depth, but a simple conversation. So that child knows, or those children know, that it's okay to discuss it. It's okay to feel the way you feel, and figure out where they are. And if they need counseling service, let the schools know, let the teachers know. Because as they're facing adolescence and facing these different changes throughout their bodies, they're going to be dealing with different things. Let's just make sure we're tapping in to ensure that it's not behind the trauma that they've experienced.
Right. No, I love that. Absolutely. And let me, can I talk to the adults right now? Stop hiding information from your children and from your grown children too. I do believe we are in a time to where you may be experiencing some conversations with your grown children who may be going through something of such. Have a conversation with them. Let them know, if you experienced that, how did you make it out? If it runs in the family, how that's not okay. We have to be in a position to give other people hope. Again, you guys know we talk about it every week. The Inner Cheese Show is really about the inner you. That's really why you tune in every week. And I am just honored to be here to share with you. Sometimes we got to talk to that inner man so that we can be set free and share the knowledge, wisdom, clarity, and understanding with our loved ones. What Tawana and her family are doing for little Jaden, I believe it already. He won't have that aggression. He won't have that anger, and he definitely won't have questions because they are setting the tone now. They're having the conversation with him. And the great thing, too, is it's all in the honor of his mother. What better way than to share the story with Jaden now so that he can even share his mother's story? To come from the baby himself regarding his mother, whom he's never met, but all because his support system from his aunties, his uncles, grandparents, cousins, he will no longer carry on that void into adulthood. Talk to your children. Explain to them what domestic violence is. Explain to them what unhealthy relationships are. And be that support system. You never know what a conversation can do. You never know if just starting it, initiating the conversation can do. Or just a question. Do you know what domestic violence is from a child perspective? Do you know what it is? So I really want to thank Tawana. Thank you so much for sharing your story. I know without a shadow of a doubt that Miss Brisha is thoroughly happy with what you are doing in the community, what you are doing in these states, what you are going to be doing nationally and or internationally, because this hits home to a lot of people. And we got to talk, family. We got to save each other. We got to be transparent and we got to be vulnerable. We have to be vulnerable. No more living in dysfunctionality. If you are in a situation and you are experiencing abuse in any relationship, man or woman, even child, tell somebody. Get help. You guys see down here the National Domestic Violence Hotline for victims. You are more than happy to give them a call and or email them. But guess what? We got someone right here to want to do hard. The celebration of Richard Walters, who can help you in the DFW Metroplex, who can help you in Little Rock, Arkansas, and help you find the resources and or provide the tools for you. You do not have to live in this, and you don't have to suffer alone. Tawana, how else can they find you outside of the celebration of Brisha Walters Facebook page and outside of the Brisha Incorporation? Do you have any other social handles that people can reach out to you?
They can reach out to me directly. Tawana Do Hard. I'm on Facebook and Instagram. I'll answer. I've been doing it for over 10 years. I'll answer.
Awesome. Well, thank
Because
you.
if I can save a Brisha, then it's all worth it.
Well, I want to thank you again for your time. Thank you for sharing. Any last words you want to give to the people before we end on tonight?
That we have to make healthy relationships the real norm. Dysfunction is not normal. Healthy is normal. And that's most important.
You guys heard it here. Healthy is normal. God bless you guys. We came to you in peace tonight. We leave you in peace. We will see you next Tuesday. Thank you so much for tuning in. Y'all have a wonderful night.
She's sugary, she's spice. She is everything plus nice. Take her one-on-one class and she provides the best advice. She'll take you down to the trenches, but only to lead a new way. Only for the sake of you and your legacy to establish a new day. Let's give a warm welcome to the Chief Reprimand and the Supreme Hugger, Chi Smith.